So welcome to this episode of the Awakened Intimacy podcast. I'm Greer.
And I'm Aaron.
And once again, we're really honoured to be spending this time with you. We're recording this podcast off the back of a pretty big week. We've held a private couples retreat and then we held an in-person workshop as well. And so we're going to be sharing some of the common threads or the primary common thread that we noticed with this couple. And what's interesting is that these couples were all at different stages in their relationship, different ages of children or not having children, very different external situation, and yet there was a common thread there.
And that common thread was busyness. The common thread throughout all these couples was they hadn't created the space or time to simply be with one another, to slow down, to get present and to connect, or that they had attempted to create space and date nights. Yet when they created that space, they found themselves speaking about logistics and all the things that they were doing, and work and kids and the house and business.
Yeah, and it's why date nights alone can't work. It's I very rarely get on message threads on Facebook, but I found myself drawn into a discussion this week, and it was because someone had written a post saying that the man should take his partner out on a date night once a week, for always. And I just really disagreed with that. The date night, it's that in itself is not going to fix or solve or heal anything, because it can actually just create more busyness, which is one of the last things we want to do.
Yeah, and the reality is a great, fulfilling, connected relationship is found in micro moments. It's in the moments we're in your kitchen and there's a soft touch or an acknowledgement, and simply connecting with one another, maybe with a hug at the end of the day or when you come home. It's the micro moments that really matter, and knowing how to attune to one another is one of those skills that isn't necessarily obvious, but it's very learnable. And I would say that it's also one of the skills that couples desire the most unknowingly, in that they know there's disconnection, they can feel a sense of separation, but they're not necessarily sure or able to pinpoint on exactly what is missing. Attunement is felt through the body, nervous system to nervous system, and it really starts with the connection and relationship with ourself, our own physical body, and then from this place we're able to feel our partner. So often when there's an attempt at intimacy or there's an attempt at connection, the other partner may go into fixing or dismissing, minimizing. Sound familiar? And that opportunity for attunement and really feeling one another is missed. And it's not because there's a lack of love or even a lack of care, because often that partner that's trying to fix the other does care, and that's how they're trying to show that they care, but they're actually missing out on what's really been asked for, which is attunement.
I know, as I think I'm recovered. I wouldn't say I'm recovering. I think I have now recovered fixer, that I wasn't aware of it at the time, but what would actually happen with me if something was up with you or a previous partner is that if you weren't okay, I can't be okay. And so it would bring this subtle sense of anxiety within myself. And if I'm feeling anxiety and then approach your situation, guess what? I'm just feeding anxiety into that situation. And so I might be looking like, I'm taking control and let me handle it. But actually, if my inner motivation from that is, I don't like this, I got to fix this, as opposed to, I'm sensing that you're really overwhelmed. Is there anything I can do to support you? And it's a very different way to support our partner. And we talk about being 100% responsible for our half of the relationship, and also about relational sovereignty. So it's important that I be able to attune to my partner if he's disconnected, but it's also important that I stay responsible for me. And so even if I am supporting you, if I notice myself starting to dip or starting to get worried, and you're really good at doing this, you'll come into my like, Elaine, support me, and then I notice you're good. Okay, babe, I just need to like break now, and you keep yourself well and balanced so that you can be the best supportive partner for me. And likewise, rather than let me just jump into the river with you and let's both drown, and you know.
Yeah, but I still notice that I have a tendency to, like, it's something I've got to contain and regulate within myself. If I see you not in a good place, obviously I don't just completely shut off and disconnect, but it's something that I've got to regulate within myself, is my own anxiety of like, oh, like, you're not okay, like, and you know, that's been a skill and a practice that's had to, you know, really be worked on. And yeah, we're speaking to what some would label as anxious attachment, and that's got a lot to do with our childhood conditioning, and it leads into people pleasing and self-abandonment, which is a really, really common dynamic that particularly people / couples that come to therapy, they're often in that pole of relationship, in that dynamic, because underneath that is a deep yearning for love and a desire for connection. So, you know, the positive intention of that is to be connected. Yet there's just some, you know, unhealed trauma kind of enmeshed within that positive intention that feeds and fuels that anxiety and anxiousness. And it's also tied into our self-esteem of, you know, if we're not fully loving and accepting and embracing of ourselves, then we're also going to have that external need for validation, and it's a different dimension of the same issue of like, I'm not okay if you're not okay, and I don't approve myself if you don't approve of myself. There's still an external enmeshment going on there.
Yeah, and it's natural to be influenced by the perspectives of others, and it's healthy at times to take perspectives on board. So it's very important to listen to the you know, if you come to me, babe, can I offer some feedback, then I want to be open to that.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
No, it's because if we don't, then we will fall into the other side of the dynamic, which is usually the person that is very avoidant to couple coming to therapy because they think they know it all, right? They think they've got their shit sorted, and it's the other person that needs fixing, and I'm all good. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like they have almost too much self-esteem, an inflated sense of self, being above it all.
And I think also, you know, you named an important word, which is avoidance, and that's the danger. It's one of the dangers of staying busy, is that it can feel safer to get caught up in the quote unquote drama of life. And I say that respectfully, because life can be full on. I don't know anyone who doesn't have something really big going on in their life. But if we get caught up in that, and that just, again, we just get swept in the current of the busyness and the school going back, or the school holidays, and something happened with the parents, or, you know, work, that can become unconsciously or consciously an avoidance strategy to actually focus on what's really happening and what your deeper needs are for a relationship.
Yeah, I fully agree. And quite often one of the symptoms of, you know, relating at the surface level is the communication will be about logistics. Okay, it's the doing, staying in that doing mode of being is related to only relating from the surface level. And this is something I prefaced our couples workshop with, is if we're yearning for a deeper connection, if we're really wanting intimacy, it requires to go to a deeper layer of relating. And in order to do so, that requires courage to be vulnerable, and then that vulnerability needs to be held. It needs to feel safe and respected. Quite often, if we can't handle our partner's vulnerability, it's because we haven't met those deeper parts of ourselves. And this was a really big insight for one of the couples we worked with recently. It was like, to the degree that we've felt our own shame, grief, fear, is to the degree that we can meet our partner in their grief, shame, fear, for example. If I haven't met that in myself, then when it arises in my partner, I'm going to push it away in them as much as I push it away in myself. And that is one of the many ways in which disconnection and a lack of attunement happens.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing when you share all that is that staying busy keeps us functional and can keep our head above the water, but it limits us greatly in terms of the depth to which we can connect and the truth with which we connect. Because, and I really think that to have that, we need space. That could look like a date night. It could look like a date night if you're very clear, okay, we're not talking about kids, we're not talking about work, let's talk about us. And again, it doesn't have to be a date night. It could be moments of seeing your partner and seeing them a bit stressed. So, hey, babe, you okay? What's happening? And rather than going, well, this is what's happened and they've said this and this is it. It's like, I'm actually feeling really overwhelmed and I'm feeling really angry about this, and I'm also feeling guilty that I feel angry and I feel like I should, and giving space for not only what's happening at the deeper layer, but for the many parts that are living within us at any time, the conflicting parts that can create confusion and overwhelm. And if we marry that with busyness and a stressful environment, that's a lot to bring into a relationship and then try and connect deeply.
And connecting deeply means we're connecting emotionally. And one of the lack of skills that many couples have is confusing, the story and narrative with how we're actually feeling. And this was, again, another really big insight one of the couples had, is they were wanting to connect emotionally, yet they were always talking about the story of everything that was going on. So part of what we helped them with was, yes, honor the story, it's important, and what's the feeling underneath. So it may sound like, I've got so many roles and responsibilities, this person is wanting this and this person is wanting this, and how it makes me feel is overwhelmed and anxious. Yeah. Whereas people may try to relate emotionally, and they go, I'm feeling like they want this and they want that from me, and I feel like no one really gets me. Like that's not a feeling. The feeling is being misunderstood. The feeling is being rejected, for example.
Yeah, and of course, in both in the retreat work and then in the connected workshop that we held, going another step deeper, and it's like, okay, so when you're feeling overwhelmed, where do you feel that in your body? And that is, if Aaron can actually be sharing that he's overwhelmed and I'm feeling really heavy and like I've just got this big like weight on my shoulder, that is a very intimate way to connect with me. And what I also notice is that when you share from those deeper places of you, I naturally go into less fixing, because I might ask if you want to rub, on your shoulder, but it's more to support you. It's not to take it away from you. Whereas the mind, if your mind, if you meet me with your mind, that will attract my mind to come into fixing and go, well, why did they do that? And and I know I can get into that. I can go into problem solving because I'm a good problem solver, and quite often that's not what you're needing. So it's really important, and this is why in all the work we do, and certainly in my work with women, the embodiment work is such an integral part of it, because that is where the intimacy, deep intimacy lies.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And it's why we have embodiment as the foundation for all of our work. It's the foundation of the retreat. It's the foundation of awakened intimacy. It's even the foundation and opening sequence of the couples workshop. Getting people into their body, attuning to the subtle, somatic, felt sensations that's going on. For me, once again, my feet are cold.
You can say.
If you work with me, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say my feet are cold. My palms are sweaty. I can feel sweaty armpits. There's a bit of sweat going on. Okay. And it may sound menial, but it's actually really important as the gateway to feeling our partner, to attuning to the subtle sensations of our body. It's the doorway into feeling our emotions more fully and getting out of the mind. Greer, something I've heard you mention is how many women come to you and they feel stuck in their mind and they're overthinking. And what's the remedy for overthinking?
What's calling on that Panavayu energy? It's the downward energy. You want to drop down into our body, into our feet. And that's why almost so many meditations will start with some kind of body scan, some kind of body awareness so that we drop back down. And again, asking our mind to be quiet is a little bit like asking our heart to stop beating. We don't need to silence it necessarily, but we do need to become aware of it and create some kind of separation from it so that we're not bypassing, we're not shunning it, but we're also not just living in the grip of it. And so the other benefit of coming to the body is it helps me slow down and it helps me come into the present moment. And again, if I want to be present with my partner and be intimate with my partner, I need to be in this moment rather than projecting into next year when XYZ happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I love it that we're in flow here because that's where I wanted to go next is like, the symptom of being busy over the time, being caught in logistics means you're going to be stuck in your mind, mental anxiety, thinking over everything, over analyzing. And so as we shared in the opening statement, the common thread with all these couples that we worked with over the last week was the busyness. Interestingly, when they slowed down and stopped and got present with one another, huge breakthroughs happened. Huge.
Within hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was actually so simple. It was so simple. And yes, we pre-framed and we had a few different exercises and went through a few different techniques to get them into a place of deeper presence. So they weren't just stopping and eye gazing. There's a bit more to it.
There's a lot more to it.
There's a lot more to it. But every couple was blown away at the depth of connection that they felt by simply slowing down, attuning to one another, and remembering love. Or maybe it was sharing a vulnerability. There was a couple we worked with recently who'd been through a significant trauma, and one of their coping strategies, and understandably so, was to get on with life and to keep moving forward and not wallow in the depths of this trauma. Yet, one of our prompts was to get them to slow down and to witness one another in the pain of this trauma. And it was so beautiful. Like, I was holding back. I'm still thinking of it now. I'm like, I'm holding back tears of how beautiful it was to go into this place of usness in the shared pain. And it wasn't to wallow in it. It wasn't to go into victimhood. It was to go into we're in this together. It's not me and my pain and you and your pain and we're just trying to get on with life together. It's like, this is sometimes the beauty of pain and grief and hardship is it can actually bring us closer. You know, and we touched on this in the Awakening Through Grief podcast in that episode of how bonding and connecting something as severe and heavy as grief can be.
Yeah. I think when we pause to allow ourselves to feel the depth of what's happening, and you know, even if you and I have gone through different grief processes, and I think about what we were navigating in that moment when we had that the magpie energy come through. I don't need to go into it here, but it was the depth, for me, the depth of despair and heartbreak and huge grief. And then I really felt you come in, and like, you weren't feeling my grief, but you were able to come into your own experience and depth of what that was. And it was incredibly healing. I really felt honored in what I was moving through. I wasn't asking you to experience it in the same way, because you can't. You know, none of us can experience even something like, I may have shared this, but when my father passed, and you know, I have two sisters and we're all very close to Dad. We all loved him greatly, but we've all had very different grief processes through that. But to be able to connect in that space and just be in that together, and to honor the love. And you know, whenever we're experiencing great grief, it's because we've experienced great love, you know, and that's a beautiful, precious thing to honor. And it doesn't necessarily take it away. It doesn't mean that the grief is healed then and there. We never experience again. Grief, in my experience, lasts a lifetime when it's, you know, the death of someone we've loved. So yeah, it was powerful. And I think, you know, what will naturally happen is that if I slow down, I give myself permission to slow down, and you're slowing down and giving yourself permission, my nervous system will start to self-regulate, you start to self-regulate, and then we start to synergize and start to co-regulate, which is, again, a skill that's really essential in intimacy. So learning how to attune to the partner's body and just the power. One of the feedbacks from the Connected workshop, one of the highlights was, at the end, I took them through a heart meditation where we're like really opening our heart and seeing one another and remembering how much we love this person. And I could see it in the room. I get quite, you know, I'm quite empathic, but I was like witnessing this love. And this was at the end of a 3.5-hour workshop.
Yeah.
It was such a small workshop, and all the couples came away just blown away. Some of them have been together for 20 years, and some of them felt a new depth of love. And you know, we worked with a couple recently on another private retreat, and this couple had been married for longer than Aaron had been alive.
Yeah.
And Aaron led them through a practice, and you could see them connecting. They had never done that before, and it was so beautiful to just watch them go there in a really safe and healthy and held way that respects, you know, what's happening for them. It's very much their experience. We're just holding space for them, and it's really powerful.
Yeah, and I love that we could create that space particularly for that couple, and that's the gift and power of doing 2-on-2 retreats. You know, they had a very unique situation, very unique life dynamics, and we could tailor the whole experience around what they really needed. Yeah.
And it was interesting because our private retreats start with an afternoon. Then they have 2 full days and then a closing session on the 4th morning, if you want. And when we finished that, we had the afternoon intro session, we had the full day, and that full day finished a bit early because they're like, wow, this is a lot. And then when we turned up on day 3, ready for we were kind of technically only halfway through the retreat, they're like, oh, I think we've got it all. You know, we were asking, so what else do you guys feel like you need? How can we focus this second half of the retreat? And actually they just wanted to integrate, because less is more, and depth doesn't require breadth.
Complexity.
Yeah. And they've got their nuggets, and then they just went. So we ended up kind of being tour guides for them, wasn't it? We hung out with them, and it was great. We kind of took them to a few sites. And,
we showed them around the place.
Based on what was interesting for them. And
it was great. It was really beautiful. Yeah, and one of the reasons we were so efficient is because we didn't get stuck on the surface level problems.
Well, I started to.
You did.
I started trying to problem solve, and you're like, Okay.
I was like, let's reel this in. But it's something we could facilitate, but it's a micro of a more macro dynamic and common complexity and situation in that. And it relates exactly into the busy couple that are at the surface level, and they're trying to problem solve, with logistics, and they're actually missing out on what the deeper need is. And so often, so many issues can be solved really quickly by actually identifying and addressing the need that's trying to be met underneath the surface level problem. Just take that away. Take that to the bank. You've got your value from this podcast. If you can really grasp this and learn the language and get the skill set of actually being able to identify the unmet need underneath the surface level problem, your life is going to get a whole lot simpler.
Yeah, and it was great because the couple that we took this through were quite new. They hadn't done personal development before. They were very accomplished in their own areas, but this was new. So coming back to the basics, and even for you, Aaron, with a recent session with your coach, that you've been so deep into the work for many years now, and yet being brought back to those fundamental human needs and really getting clear on what is the need that I'm not. What's the underlying need that I'm not meeting here? That was really important. I can feel you wanting to come in, so I'll just finish my bit and then you add on. So what are the needs of the adult, us as adults we all have? And so I'm talking about certainty, variety, the stability.
Love and connection. Growth, contribution.
Yeah, they're the kind of the...
And significance.
Yeah, and those, yeah. So we need to look at all of those. But also, particularly in this dynamic where I started to get in, because there were lots of players involved in this particular situation, I started to how can we solve this? Really, when there's some of the surface problems, it's also looking at if people are reacting and people are behaving in ways that are quite complicated, and how do I deal with this person? Because it's one thing for us to, cool, I know what my needs are. I got my shit together. Cool, I know what I want. But then not everyone that we're working with has done the same amount of work, and likewise if someone's reacting in a way that's challenging, that naturally brings out the parts of us that react in a challenging way. So also looking at the fundamental human needs, but also the needs of a child and the needs of a wounded child, because again, when things are playing out in a relationship, if we're activated and we're behaving in a certain way, it almost always stems back to a childhood and an unaddressed need as a kid. So it was really powerful to overlay those and also look at the different people involved in the experience. Go, what do you think their need is? What's playing out? And when they kind of brought those together, that really brought so much clarity. The situation's still complex, but the pathway has all like, it's just brought a lot of simplicity to what is a very complicated situation.
Yep. You said everything I was going to say.
Cool. Okay.
And the other part that really supported this couple in their particular dynamic was the understanding of what's going on for someone when they act in a really immature, bratty, hard to deal with behavior. And it was something that again is like a real fundamental and foundation of our work, is recognizing the different parts of the brain. And before I go into it, I just want to thread back that conversation around regulation in terms of being able to regulate ourselves, co-regulate with our partner. Yes, it allows us to feel one another more at the nervous system level, and at the brain level, it ensures that we're connecting to and operating from our prefrontal cortex, the higher part of our brain, the higher functioning part, which can handle and appreciate complexity and nuance, be able to see things from a higher and different perspective. If we're operating from our amygdala, the midbrain, the emotional brain, then we regress to a child or teenager, and we will have the emotional intelligence of a child. And just to thread the needs bit in, we will be fighting for an unmet childhood need. That could be validation, could be being seen, being heard, to know we matter. Maybe it's safety. Maybe it's a sense of ownership, significance. That's just to take that conversation around needs just to a bit of a deeper level and overlay it with, what's going on in the brain. And when we're in the presence of someone who's triggered, who's highly reactive or emotional or shut down in that fight, flight or freeze mode, when we can recognize that, they're hard to deal with right now because they might have an adult body, but there's a part of their brain that is still conditioned to behave like a child when there's a sense of danger. And that could be relational danger, not just physical. So when that is triggered, we regress, and having that understanding means we can have a sense of compassion, because just like a child, it needs compassion and understanding, but also like a child, it needs limits. And just because we can see someone is acting out in an immature way doesn't mean we have idiot compassion for them and just let them do what they need to do. We also need to set compassionate limits. And this is part of soft power and being able to stand up for ourselves without dominating or controlling the other person, which is another really key component of our work.
Yeah, so if we circle back to some of our needs, and we all have different needs that pop up at different seasons in our life and also within particular dynamics. But an example from the workshop that I think demonstrates this was that there was a couple who were finding they were having an ongoing argument. It would circle around and there wasn't really any resolve happening. And so it had gotten to a point where it just had come to an almost a sense of acceptance and resignation that it's just something that happens. And when we kind of explored what it was really about, if we got away from the story of what it looked like, it was about one couple feeling, one of the people feeling unappreciated and somewhat
undervalued.
And it actually, as often the case, ultimately the other partner felt like that too, but it was playing out differently. And we've had this.
Yeah, we have.
We've had this where we've had something and we have seemingly completely different worldviews, stories about what's happening, but actually underneath it, I feel like there's something wrong with me. Yeah. Or, in this situation, it was, I feel like I'm not valued. And we've had that around appreciation too. And it's like, I feel like I'm not being appreciated. And what's so important about that is in the realization of, I'm feeling unappreciated, that creates a connection point. It creates a sense of usness. Neither of us are feeling unappreciated. And then we can both have a compassion for that because we both know what that feels like. And it kind of, one of the concepts that almost every couple who came to the workshop said that they found really helpful was the concept of usness. So rather than coming from you're the one who's not appreciating me and you need to do this, it's like, okay, so neither of us are feeling unappreciated. I'm curious, what would help you feel more appreciated? What are the things that are most meaningful for you? Because different things for you, and you've got the love languages, that's a common kind of lens for this sort of thing. But is it that you actually just need to really, for me to explicitly tell you how much I appreciate you doing X, Y, Z? Or is there something that I need to actually do and demonstrate as a way of showing you? And so once we, again, not without going to the story, once we clarified that unmet need, they were then going away to kind of look at how that might look for them. And it was particularly interesting because in that particular couple, one of them was naturally went into strategies. Okay, how can we implement this? And you could just see the other one, that the woman just actually wanted to be felt and connected. And so again, it's like we can have both. What is the strategy that will help us feel connected? And again, getting back to that need, it's about feeling respected. It's not about ticking off the things on the strategy.
Yeah, you're spot on. And, just to wrap up some of the insights from the workshop, I also saw one of the reluctance for couples to slow down is because they'll need to address what's being swept under the rug or being put in the too hard basket, and their attempts at repair and working through something difficult hasn't gone well in the past. And they're not wanting to rock the boat and create upset. And to that we say that repair is a skill, and there's actually a very simple way to be able to do that, and we workshop that live. And the feedback we got was how helpful that was, seeing us actually do that live in the moment. And yeah, this is the power of doing that in-person work, whether it's at a retreat or a workshop, is having the lived experience, because we live in the age of information. There is so much information out there, but you cannot undervalue or underestimate the power of embodying and having lived practice of these teachings, these communication frameworks, and having us embody that and teach it live as well.
Yeah, particularly because when either of us goes into reactivity, that part of us, that the part of the brain that can act in that wise adult self, tends to go offline. And so by learning an agreed and shared and practice process, it helps you both come back into that sense of safety, and it also creates a container around the conversation, which also creates safety. Because it's hard if you tend to be someone who, and you're not, but if you're someone who is just boundaryless, and if you bring something up, I know that you're going to go on about it for another hour or two. It's fair enough if I don't want you to bring it to me. But if we have a framework which literally takes less than 5 minutes to move through, and that was the other insight, is not only did they get to see us workshop live, but it's we can actually address something in the moment that takes 3 minutes. We don't actually have to harbour it for the day or the week or the year. We can actually just address it then and there. That was really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the consequence of constantly sweeping things under the rug is you might have a functional relationship where you can do stuff and the logistics get done, but the emotional gap between you will continue to grow over time, and erotic charge will lessen, a feeling of trust will erode, and you will become roommates rather than lovers. Really, really common dynamic.
Yeah.
And so if you can identify yourself in that, and are hesitant to slow down and meet your partner again in a deeper place, then you don't have to do it alone. You can, we can support you in this and save you so much time, so much friction and suffering.
So many bad date nights.
So to learn the skill of relating and connecting. And another common, I guess, complaint or objection that we often hear is that, well, if we're loving and compatible, shouldn't this just come effortless and natural? And it's no, not at all, because the vast majority of us in this current society are stuck in our heads. We do relate from the mind and narrative and story, and there's a complete lack of emotional intelligence and relational intelligence in knowing how to attune, how to listen. Listening is a skill. To not dismiss your partner's truth or minimize it or try to fix with telling them it's all going to be okay, right? It's just a lack of skill. It's not a lack of love.
Yeah, I'm laughing because one of the lines we'll often say is that 99% of us didn't grow up with enlightened parents. And then on the weekend we said that, and I said, when people were doing their own process, I said to Aaron, I've never actually heard of an enlightened person who has children. No know, because you need so much space for that. I don't know. Maybe there is. If you know someone, let us know. But yeah, I'm yet to hear of an enlightened master who actually had kids. The kids is a spiritual part.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
Yes?
We have a new segment.
I'm excited.
I've been saving this for... so I came across a viral reel the other day. It had 2 million views.
Oh my God. And
I was like... I resonated with it. And I was like, I wonder what Greer thinks about this. So... She hasn't watched the video yet.
I've been so patient.
Yes.
Waiting for... I was like, I'm going to show it to you and I'm going to record it. Were you watching it?
Yeah. What?
I just feel like I'm on a game show or something. It feels really exciting.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
I call my husband Daddy in the bedroom and Sir when he's handling business. I am a wife. I am soft and I am happier, wetter, richer, and more powerful than 99% of the so-called strong, independent women screaming at me online. Here's why. And the data that will never make you settle for a combative woman ever again. Fact number 1. Women who feel led have 4 times more orgasms. Archives of Sexual Behavior in 2022. This is 15,000 women, okay? Found that women in relationships where the man is the undisputed leader report 4 times more orgasms per week, 70% higher sexual satisfaction, and 3 times more likely to actually initiate the sex themselves. Imagine that. What does this translate to? When she doesn't have to be the man, her body finally relaxes enough to flood. Fact number 2, egalitarian marriages die fastest. A 20-year University of Norway study showed that couples who split chores 50-50 and take turns leading have a divorce rate 50% higher than those where the man clearly leads. Why is this? Because the polarity collapses, the tension dies, and the bedroom gets cold. Fact number 3, masculine leadership creates feminine surrender and insane loyalty. It's as simple as that. When a woman feels her man is fully in charge of direction and protection, her oxytocin, her pair bonding hormone spikes 300%. That is the same chemical that makes new mothers die for their babies. Give her that safety and she will burn cities before she ever betrays you. This is what real submission looks like in my house. He makes the money. I have some side hustles, but when my husband walks through the door, I am barefoot, voice soft, eyes up. I ask, how do you want me tonight, baby? He tells me, I obey. And I fly so high, I forget my own name sometimes because I'm not carrying the whole world. He is. Call it unfair. I call it balance. That's not weakness. It's the smartest trade that I have ever made. Men, stop dating women who hiss at the word submit. They are showing you that they never truly relax around you, that they will never give you that wild, devotional, ride or die love that you are craving. Find the woman strong enough to kneel, secure enough to call you a king without any sarcasm. That woman isn't broken. She is rare. She is peace, and she is the last 10 out of 10 that you are ever going to need. Protect her, lead her, own her, and watch her turn in your entire bloodline into legends. That's biblical. That's biological. That is the cheat code that has been erased. So take it back.
What are your thoughts?
So many thoughts.
I bet.
So what I notice in my body watching that is I feel my solar plexus is a little bit activated, which tells me, oh, am I needing to defend from this woman? Which is interesting to notice. What I notice is mentally, I felt like that was a ChatGPT script. There was a lot of classic, it's not this, it's that, it's not this, it's that. And whilst I believe that she may well have that relationship with her husband, I felt like there was a slight lack of discrepancy between the way that she arrives when her husband gets home. She's soft and she's barefoot and she's that. When she was in, that was a very masculine energy that she was in. She was not embodying the energy that she was calling the women into. So, and I say that I know that I can be in that softness and I can get into that masculine thing. So if that's what works for her, if that's what works for her relationship, if that's what works for the 15,000 couples that were interviewed, that's amazing. And that might be what works for you. and it may not be. You know, one of the things that I really remember from my studies with Michaela Boehm, who I've studied with for quite a few years, is that, you know, there are women in the bedroom who their natural role is to dominate, and their partner who likes to submit, and that works for them. What's important, if that's the context in the bedroom, is that then on the outside, if she's the dominator in the bedroom, then she needs to be more of the submissive in the household. And likewise, if her kind of and so it could be healthy if the man's out working, bringing home the bacon. It's actually more of a polarity to switch that up in the bedroom. It depends on. For me, I have a really great masculine drive. I'm really good. Like, one of my aspects is, we name different parts of us, and one of mine is Daphne, and she is really great at organizing things. It's, you know, getting things together. And one of your aspects is, you know, Qualls, who just wants to be cuddled and doesn't have to want to be in the masculine, just wants to have a cuddle. And so for me, the polarity is in me accessing all of those dimensions and flavors within myself, and you witnessing that same woman in those different parts, and then you being that. I mean, would I love you to just come home and bring the bacon, and me to just kind of play it with a bit of retreats and women's work when it suits and that? Yeah, I would like that. But I love that neither of us have an issue with we don't even think about how much money. We've never had that discussion. How much money did you bring in? How much did I bring in? I feel like we're in such a place of usness that is not a thing, because and we're a unique couple in that I feel like we have a very strong karmic role and dharmic role that we're here to teach conscious relationships. So I don't judge that. That's not my truth. And I can also see that there is a truth. I love it when you come in and lead. And yeah, I do love that. I've shared that with you. And I love it coming in and leading. And I know you love it when I come and just grab your cock. You know, just like just take care of business, you know? So to me, that's what creates intimacy. I feel like it would be boring if I submitted all the time.
Yeah. And if I, like, you nailed it on the head. Like, if I've been out in the world.
You on the head.
Calm down.
That's an example.
If I've been out in the world and been doing all day, I want to be able to come home and relax and not have to lead you, you know, in the bedroom in that way. Like, I think, and that's a healthy polarity. And I guess what I also want to address is, like, how often typical historical gender roles get confused with polarity teachings. Because when there is a polarity issue in a relationship, yes, it will manifest in the bedroom, it will probably manifest in the dynamics, but that doesn't mean that gender roles, like typical gender roles, is the antidote. Because it's about what works for you as a couple. And I guess the more trauma that we hold, the more likely that our polarity is going to be miscued and distorted. Like, if I'm a man and I've grown up and my masculinity or my dominance or aggression was shamed by, you know, a mother figure, then I might have issues accessing that part of myself that wants to lead and feels comfortable in taking healthy control. And so it's really important to recognize that polarity has its place, but it's not actually always the solution to having a thriving relationship. Polarity is definitely important for healthy physical intimacy and sexuality, for sure, and it's something to experiment with and play with, and it's not rigid in that the man has to be the leader. And if a man has been too feminine and has been afraid of taking the lead, then quite often there is a sense of relief for the woman that he's finally got the courage to do that and step into that. And that's typically why these clips and why these teachings have an impact, because there is a epidemic of submissive passive men right now for a variety of reasons that I don't need to go into now. However, it is the most common dynamic that a man shows up with to, the men's workspace, relationship space. He's struggled to know how to lead in a healthy way because he was conditioned to be a good boy, to people please, to put other people's needs first. He has an anxious attachment where he is so preoccupied with making sure the woman's okay and she's okay that he totally negates his own needs and his own self-care. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the times where you have felt like it's all up to you for money, and that, what I witnessed, that leads you to actually just like going to overwhelm. Yeah. And there would be some men that for who that works. There'd be some men that just ignites them and gets them going. For you, that's not works for you. So I think I was tuning into, why is my solar plexus up there? Like what's happening within me to respond to that video in that way. And I think it's a little bit of, I noticed myself going, oh, should I be more like her? So that's kind of, that whole self-esteem thing that I am who I am. And it's natural though, that then I would compare myself to people outside of me. And so I inquired about that. And then it's like, oh, hang on, do I need to defend how we are? Because we're not like that. I can call you daddy in the bedroom. That can be really hot. And outside of the bedroom, I would never call you sir. I call you baby. Hey baby. And it's not like baby little boy. It's like, hey, sexy baby. And so I think my response to that, and I know that a lot of socials are meant to polarize, and that's what gets them viral. But the polarization is unhelpful to humanity. It's unhelpful to our relationships. It's unhelpful to who we are as a species, which thrives on connection. We thrive on intimacy, and making someone wrong for being different to us is unhelpful because it could be working for them. So, and it's one of the traits of the wise adult, is that life is nuanced. Life is complicated. We're all very different. We've all had very different childhoods. We all live in different parts of the world. We have different financial inheritances, different financial pressures. Children, not children, there's so much. So to say that all men to bring home the bacon and women, you got to be barefoot, even though I am barefoot, wearing my linen at the moment. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
But good on for her. And there's part of me that's jealous that she's gone viral.
I think it's really important to, and what I want you to touch on is the safety piece, because you do open to me. You are juicy and wet and all those things that she speaks about. Yet what I've heard you say is that what I provide isn't always the financials. It's the presence. It's the emotional attunement, and that's what actually allows you to feel safe. And I think what she understated there was it's the safety piece. And from what I could pick up on, she feels safe because he's bringing home the bacon. He's providing physical resources, and that's what's allowing her to feel safe. And what I've heard you say is I provide safety in a completely different way. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have been in previous relationship where there's that needs safety, but I'm not feeling safe and open in that way. So, and if anything, when it's kind of what I was alluding to before, if you're in that state of pressure, it's up to me. That changes your whole makeup and being of how you are and your relationality for me. And I don't know, I think there would be a lot of women whose men are earning big bucks, traveling the world. Those men are having lots of affairs, lots of, whatever. So, and there are some women that might work for, and there's no judgment. Like, that's not a non-negotiable for some women, For me, I know that for me to open, I need to feel your attunement. I need to feel your presence. I need to feel your care. and I need to feel safe to express the different parts of me. And it's really when you're in that space of presence that's when those different dimensions of the feminine and those archetypal energies can come through me. And then we may have an experience where we're making love, where I am that innocent maiden, I am the dirty slut, I am the vixen, I am the cowgirl, I'm the me, I'm the mama who's tired and just wants some connection. And so that's what creates polarity, having me access different parts of myself. And you to some extent. I don't think it plays out quite the same. It doesn't for us anyway, in terms of you've got a few different flavours you touch on, but it's pretty regular.
Most of the time it's just being...
Dragon.
Well, there is that, but most of the time it's just being an attuned, present, caring dad that...
Oh, yeah. The biggest turn on for me is when Aaron's got, I call him sexy daddy, when he's just being an epic dad. I'm like, this is sexy. It just turns me on so much. Because you're being present and attuned, and you're providing masculine presence.
Yeah.
To me, that's more important than money. And that's not to negate money. Bring home the bacon, baby. Yeah. I'm down for that as well. So, yeah.
Great. Awesome. Feel like we could have just done a whole podcast.
I thought that earlier on.
Just on that. But, anyway, who knows? We might bring that up again. And yeah, I've got some more ideas of doing some reaction style content. So if you've found value in this podcast, we would love for you to let us know what resonated, what stood out. And please share this with a couple or a person that you feel it might support. The best way you can support us is by liking and subscribing and sharing. Please, it would be so appreciated.
Yeah, and to bring it back to the connection and coming back into intimacy within your partnership. If you are in relationship with someone, then share. If they're not interested in listening to the whole podcast, maybe you just share your own insights of something that this brought up within you. And it may not be sharing anything that we said. It may be something that we said has provoked something within you and you want to share from that place. If you're single and you don't yet have a partner, talk to a friend who's also interested in this and share. So you can still practice those intimacy skills and still expand your intimate literacy.
Yo.
Cool. Oh, and if you do want to work with us, of course, reach out. We've got our private couples retreats opening up the calendar for this year now. So we'd love to work with you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.